Hi, my name's Tom and I'm a chartered engineer. I'm going to tell you a little bit about my career and the industry I work in and how I went from your position as a school child to becoming a professional engineer. I'll start with talking about what I do now. So my job is to devise methods to lift or move different types of structures, bridges, parts of buildings or mechanical plant. It's called heavy lifting and I've worked in this sector for more than 20 years.
So, what does my job involve? Teamwork. It's very unusual for engineers to work alone. Working in a team in a collaborative manner is a great way to share ideas, learn from each other, and solve problems. Well, problem solving. Engineering is basically problem solving, where we use maths to back up our solutions. Practical and creative thinking. For a successful project, we need to think in a practical way. A solution is not a solution if it can't be practically carried out. And we are also inventors to some degree, and we often have to be able to think in a creative manner to solve the problems we face every day. Communication. Communication is key in really every job, but particularly in engineering. It is really important we are able to communicate effectively. We need to be able to communicate verbally when working with our immediate team so we can solve the engineering problem quickly and efficiently, but also with our clients and our site teams. And we need to communicate visually through drawings and animations and in written form with method statements, correspondence, calculations, and email. So how did I start my career? Well, I took GCSEs and then I chose to study maths, physics and geography for A-level. I chose these as they were my favourite subjects at GCSE and my school didn't offer A-level design and technology, which I would have really liked to have done. And I wanted to go to higher education, and when I was studying there were no fees, so it wasn't really a difficult financial decision. I became interested in construction when we had an extension built on my house when I was a teenager, and I also had done a project on earth moving equipment for my GCSE in design, so I thought I would study civil engineering. Civil engineering can be defined as harnessing the forces and resources of Mother Nature for the good of society. So in basic terms, we design and build buildings, roads, railways and other infrastructure which makes our life work and makes our life better. In civil engineering, traditionally there are consultants who do the design and contractors who construct the design. And generally, if you work for a contractor, you will be site-based. In the mid-90s, I graduated into a recession, which wasn't ideal, but I managed to get myself a graduate civil engineering job working for the regional division of a national civil engineering contractor. So I started my career at the beginning of a wet autumn in deepest southwest Wales, working on the extension to an existing sewage works. Well, it's not what I had dreamt of during my 5 years of study, but the 5 months I spent working on that smelly, muddy site did teach me a lot about the practical side of civil engineering. I then moved to a site near Cardiff where we were refurbishing a Victorian seaside pier. The summer months were great, but the winters less so. After about 14 months, I changed jobs to work for a specialist consultant based in Higham Ferrers. Their specialism was temporary works. That's the engineering of and design of structures needed to build the permanent structure. They're dismantled at the end of construction, and so you never really see them. And they also got involved in heavy lifting engineering. I worked in the design team, working on projects designing temporary steel structures to support lifting jacks for projects in both the UK and the Far East. And whilst doing this, I followed a professional training scheme, and after working for about 5 years, completed the scheme. I took my exams and became a chartered engineer and was admitted as a member of the Institution of Civil Engineers. Becoming a chartered engineer marks recognition that you are considered by the industry as a competent professional engineer. I carried on working in the design department, getting more experience and more responsibility, and eventually getting myself my own design team. At the same time as doing this, I decided to study part-time for an MSc in engineering management. I worked on some very interesting projects in different parts of the world at that stage of my career. The most memorable is probably the construction of the control tower at Heathrow. Here, we moved the partially constructed control tower weighing 600 tons across the runway at night, and then we jacked it over a period of 3 months to its final height, whilst we had planes taxiing around the edges of our site. At this point of my career, I had been working for about 8 years, mainly as a design engineer, when I got the chance to get more involved in the operational side of the company. Here we would send teams out to sites to undertake lifting operations or to show customers how to operate the equipment that we had designed and built for them. This meant I got more involved in the planning and managing operations on site and also managing the manufacture of our lifting equipment. I carried on in the operational side of the business, eventually taking over full control, meaning I travelled to many countries around the world. Through this, I have been lucky to meet some fascinating people and see some amazing sights. Here I am in the desert in Kazakhstan, for example. Through the experience of working with and getting to know other people from different countries and cultures, you quickly realize we have a lot more in common than we do apart. So after 22 years of working for this one company, I had the chance to change jobs and I now work for an international heavy lift contractor. I'm still working on projects all over the world, but now I also actively look to win more projects in the UK. This is a project in Leeds we undertook this year where we dismantled a bridge. And this is a project in the New Mexico desert in USA where we had to engineer a way to lift and rotate a 1,000-ton steel drum.
So, to recap, my route to engineering was, after my GCSEs, I studied A-levels maths, physics and geography, and then I went to university and I studied civil engineering. I then worked in industry, gaining experience and a better understanding, and eventually I became a chartered engineer. The MSc I studied part-time wasn't strictly necessary for my job, but it gave me additional knowledge, and that helped me when I got more involved with the management of the business. Overall, I find my career as an engineer very rewarding. I work in a project environment, and with each different project, we get another set of challenges. This means there's rarely a dull moment. I hope the insight into my professional engineering career has been interesting, and I wish you all luck in whatever you choose to do in the future.